At an emergency shelter, people were desperately searching for the names of family members in the evacuees list.
My husband hasn't come here yet. He left home a little later than me. Our house was swept away.
I'm looking for my son's wife. I have no idea which shelter she is in.
Residents rushed to the Soma City Hall in Fukushima Prefecture, seeking information about the whereabouts of loved ones.
My son might have been engulfed by the tsunami. I hope he is taking shelter somewhere. I'm struggling to locate him.
A massive fire broke out on Friday in Kesen-Numa City, Miyagi Prefecture. Smoke was still billowing on Saturday morning. Firefighters had a difficult time battling the blaze as they had to evacuate every time a tsunami struck. In the coastal town of Shinchi in Fukushima, a tsunami swept train cars off the tracks. All passengers and crew were reportedly safe as they had evacuated in time. Some people were rescued by helicopter.
I'm so lucky to have survived.
I'm relieved to see him again, but I can't rejoice completely because people are still waiting to be rescued.
Rescue work is picking up speed. Firefighters, police, and self-defense force personnel are working to find and rescue survivors across the quake-ravaged areas.
The U.S. Navy will join Japan's Maritime Self-Defense Force in the search for the missing off the coast of the country's quake-hit northeast. Japan's defense ministry says the U.S. Navy's aircraft carrier USS Ronald Reagan and 2 Aegis-equipped destroyers will help search for those who may have been swept into the sea by the tsunami. The aircraft carrier arrived in the waters of the devastated Kesen-Numa City on Saturday night. Airfields in the disaster area, including the Air Self-Defense Force's Matsushima base and Sendai Airport, were flooded and inoperable. The flight deck of the aircraft carrier is expected to serve as a landing strip for jets engaged in the search. Japan's defense ministry says the joint operation with the U.S. Navy will start on Sunday. Our main story once again. The number of fatalities and the scale of destruction is mounting by the hour, all caused by the magnitude 8.8 quake and the ensuing powerful tsunami waves. The tremor is the largest on record in Japan. More than 680 people have been confirmed dead, and the death toll could reach more than 1,000. The northern prefecture of Miyagi was hit hardest. The quake there measured an intensity of 7 on a Japanese scale of 0 to 7. A tsunami pounded Sendai City, washing inland 10 kilometers. Police say among the number of dead, 400 to 500 bodies have yet to be identified. In other parts of Miyagi Prefecture, 178 people have been confirmed dead. Rescue and identification efforts are being slowed because much of the area is underwater. In Kesen-Numa City, a fire engulfed much of the Bay Area. The Fire and Disaster Management Agency says the flames may have been sparked after oil leaked from a tank following a tsunami. In a neighboring Fukushima Prefecture, 206 people have been confirmed dead. And that's it for this hour on Newsline. I'm Keikichi Hanada. Thanks for watching.
時刻は7時になりました。引き続き地震と津波の情報をお伝えします。
It's now 7 a.m. here in Japan. We would continue with our coverage on the earthquake. First, we'd like to see the live images from Miyagi. This is Shiogama City. The shopping mall in Shiogama Bay. Until yesterday, we have seen this area flooded with water. However, the water has now subsided, and people have gathered on the rooftop of this building waiting for rescue. We do see people inside the building as well. The water has subsided. However, there seems to be still people who have evacuated and taking shelter in this building. This was Shiogama in Miyagi Prefecture.
On March
11th, there was a great earthquake in the Tohoku and Kanto area, and the Fukushima No. 1 nuclear power plant experienced the first core meltdown in Japan. And since yesterday, seawater is being used to cool down the reactors, and a little bit before 6 a.m., number 3 reactor in the No. 1 plant in Fukushima also is experiencing trouble in cooling the reactor. And based on the Nuclear Disaster Special Measures Law, the power plant has issued an emergency declaration. Since operations stopped after the earthquake, the cooling system broke down, and radioactive material was identified or detected in the vicinity. And since then, the pressure within the containment vessel has been mounting, and therefore the power plant has been venting out air from the vessel, trying to ease the mounting strain. However, there was an explosion in the building of the reactors, and this is Chief Cabinet Secretary Yukio Edano, who's saying that the reactors are surrounded with a concrete and reinforced concrete building, and the explosion caused the building walls to collapse. However, it is not an explosion of the containment vessel itself. Tokyo Electric Company says that it is very difficult to cool the reactor. Therefore, since 8 p.m. last night, they have injected seawater into the vessel to try to cool it down. The SDF force is helping in trying to inject seawater to cool the reactors, and neutrons are also being injected with boric acid to try to stop the reactors from operating. And according to the International Nuclear Event Scale, INES, it has been deemed that this incident is as serious as the JCO criticality accident that occurred 12 years ago in Tokai village of Ibaraki Prefecture. The Nuclear Industrial Safety Agency says that although this was caused by a massive earthquake, it is a very serious situation. Reactor number 3 at the Fukushima No. 1 plant, as of 5 a.m., we have received another emergency notice. And the Prime Minister and the Director Welt is going to issue orders how to deal with this. The Tokyo Electric Power Company says that for this number 3 reactor, the cooling water is not being fed into the system, and therefore that is why they have issued an emergency situation declaration. This is the 6th reactor where this emergency declaration was issued. And the Fukushima number 2 plants, number 1, number 2, and number 4 reactors also are experiencing a rise in the cooling water temperature from 30 degrees to more than 100 degrees. The Fukushima number 1 and number 2 plants have not said when they will be able to completely shut down the reactors. Therefore, still concern continues in these power plants.
Now here, joining us is our professor, University of Tokyo, Professor Sekimura. We talked about cooling the reactor using seawater. Can you explain? Well, yes. In the reactor, we have the fuel, and it is in a condition of high temperature. And so we have to cool the reactor itself. And in order to cool the reactor, what is needed is to put water into this container, this part, yes. And we are supposed to place water. Not the pressure vessel, but the overall container. And for that, we need a large volume of water. And to find water, we will be using seawater. And then we'll be able to fill the whole container itself. However, wouldn't the seawater leak? But you're going to fill it, right? Yes. When the container is filled, we'll be able to cool the pressure container. But of course, there will be some radiation inside the container. So therefore, the seawater that will be filled here will contain radioactive material. So therefore, we need to make sure that we will be able to contain the water which may leak, and management is required. And so by putting in the seawater, will we be able to secure safety of this reactor? Yes. Well, there are no major damage to the container itself, so we'll be able to secure the functionality of the container to keep the radioactive substance inside. So we believe that there will be no danger of massive amount of radioactive substances to leak. Well, yesterday there was an explosion, and the building is now only in framework now. So wouldn't there be any radioactive substances that will be leaking in the air? Of course, the building itself had a function of containing radioactive substances. It was very important, but even without the building, if the container is safe, we'll be able to contain radioactive substances inside the container. Also, this container itself is firm, so you believe that radioactive leakage will not happen. Yes. Then going forward, what will be the points to watch? Well, the temperature inside the reactor should be monitored, and we have to make sure that it will lower down. We have water inside, and so we have to make sure that it wouldn't boil. So that means that the temperature should be kept below 100 degrees. And until that point, we need to cool the reactor. Thank you very much. That was Professor Naoto Sekimura. Now, next we go over to Sendai. We have a helicopter over the petrochemical complex. Excuse me. Yes, yesterday, due to the huge earthquake on the Pacific coast of Tohoku, we'll be expecting a tsunami. There could be a possibility of a tsunami of over 1 meter to hit the Pacific coast of Tohoku. The meteorological agency is calling for caution. According to meteorological agency's observation, at 2:46 2 days ago, an 8.8 magnitude of earthquake hit the area. Tsunami of 7.3 meters was observed in Soma Port in Fukushima Prefecture. And yet last night, the meteorological agency had downgraded the major tsunami warning to tsunami warning, and in other areas, advisory. And those that still have tsunami warning is the Pacific coast of Aomori, Iwate, Miyagi,